I want to film a quick video about these Bender Racing triple pipe flanges. These are for a Yamaha Viper 2002 to 2006. And the reason I want to film this video is because these are so hard to come by nowadays that there's hardly any visual references of what these flanges look like online. If you haven't seen my other video, if you're curious about SLP flanges, I have another video on my channel that I posted it yesterday, an up-close view of SLP flanges. I also took measurements of those with a digital caliper. So the reason I want to take measurements with a digital caliper is because I feel like it's going to help somebody eventually. When somebody can't find a set of flanges for the triple pipes for whatever reason, people part out sleds, sell the triple pipes and don't include the flanges, or the flanges stay on the cylinders, which is kind of a problem because if everybody just sold triple pipes with the flanges, then the flanges would never get lost. So anyways, that's besides the point. I want to measure these because somebody might find a nice set of pipes online and then they cannot find any flanges. It took me 2 years to find SLP flanges for my SLP pipes until I finally found a set. In the meantime, I built my own set. So the reason I want to measure them is because somebody might need to make this set of flanges and I want them to have the measurements. And I'm hoping it's going to help somebody out in the future. So I want to start off by saying all three of these flanges are the same from Bender. They are a little longer than some other types of flanges. They're not as long as like the SRX flanges, the OEM ones, but they're much longer than the SLP flanges. And the reason Bender did this is because you got that power valve that comes off the top of your cylinder, and by having them longer, they didn't have to grind anything down for these to clear. On the Bender pipes, the pipes are on the flanges, the pipes slide into the flange. They slide all the way down until they stop right here. Right about here is where the pipes slide down. So that's the distance. I will measure that with a digital caliper so you know about how far your pipe should slide down into the flange. All three of these flanges are the same. They are pretty much straight out from the cylinder. It doesn't look like they have any sort of bend to them or angle pointing downwards or upwards. And I really just wanted to show you guys an up-close view of what these look like because the image, you can't find images of these online anymore. And if you can, they're going to be like on somebody's sled and they're not going to be very good. If anyone's curious, these are painted with VHT paint. It's sandblasted, prepped with paint with 320 grit sandpaper, rubbed down with some Duplicolor grease and wax remover. And then they were painted with VHT primer, 3 coats or 2 coats of black, and then VHT, and that's just their matte black, and then 2 coats of semi-gloss VHT clear. And they've held up really well. These have been sitting in my basement for a while now. The rust, as long as you get all the rust off with the sandblaster, they should be good to go for a long time. So I'm going to measure these with the digital caliper now. I'm just going to measure the one because all three of them are the same and try to get you guys some measurements of this that you would need if you needed to build your own set. So here's my digital caliper. It's in millimeters right now. I'm going to slide it all the way till it stops and then zero it out. Looks like it was already zeroed, but just in case, I want these measurements to be accurate as possible for you guys. And we'll just kind of take some measurements of these. I'm going to try to get all the measurements you would need to build your own set. First thing we're going to measure is the length. Top to bottom, 56.2. We'll measure the length from this second lip here down to the bottom, 52.1, so I'd probably call that 52. The width of the inner one, the inner tube, 46.7. So take these measurements as you will. The outer, 53.4. The diameter of this inner tube, 1.8, 1.4, 1.4. So I'd probably call that 1.5. I'm assuming it's deteriorated a little bit over time. It did have some pitting before I painted it. I can measure, I don't think this would matter to anyone, but 53 on that. And then if we go the long ways, I don't know why these would matter, because wherever the holes are on your cylinder, that's where it's going to mount up. But 88.7, no, 89.3, that's on there, good. 89.3 for that. If anyone's curious what this looks like from kind of a side view, I don't know if my hand's making shadows on it makes it better or worse, but they pinched this to fit the opening of the cylinder. So they welded it on, they squeezed it, like if you were to take a tube and squeeze it down, it would squeeze down into this sort of shape. Then they welded it on, but it gets bigger and more circular as it goes up. So that being said, I can measure the base here, kind of where they had that at, 41.9, I'd probably call that 42. If I go up a little bit, it's 45.2, and it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger all the way up. For anyone curious how far your pipe is going to go into the flange, this is the measurement that would matter for that. And these aren't going to be perfect because they've got a weld on here. But it should be about 25. No, it wouldn't be 25. That's the bottom of the weld. They'd probably go into it about 22 millimeters, I would say. And whatever the gap that your pipe here is going to slide into, it's kind of hard for me to measure that. I'm definitely not going to be able to do that. But it would be whatever the width is of your actual pipe. And that would, you'd need that gap to slide in. If anybody wants these, I can measure these. Shouldn't matter. 44 this way, 36 millimeters that way. If anybody wants the inside of this, I don't think I did that yet. 43.6, and then I can turn it. We'll see what it is this way. 45.8. These measurements probably aren't perfect, but they should give someone a general idea. 43.8, yeah. So, I think those are just about all the measurements I could take for you guys. Yeah. Anyways, I hope that helps. I'm not sure if the measurements, how helpful those actually will be, but I'm hoping that they're going to give someone a general idea of how big these flanges are and what the measurements roughly would be if they wanted to build their own set to as close as the Bender Racing originals as possible. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, have a good day, guys.